Is Abbotsford, British Columbia still the Bible Belt? Scratch that. Are conservative-minded Christians even welcome in that city anymore? That's the question some are asking after Abbotsford became one of the latest cities in Canada to join the witch hunt to shut down peaceful, law-abiding Christian worship concerts in public spaces after the radical left demanded they do so. But thankfully, some politicians in BC, including ones who are not Christians themselves, are letting the city know that their decision won't go unchallenged.
I don't share this man's politics. I disagree with him using music to go after people who are gay. I think it's pretty reprehensible, and I don't agree with the message that he's promoting.
Sean Feucht. That's the American social conservative Christian singer who's become a household name across Canada recently due to nearly every single permit planned for his free Let Us Worship concerts being revoked or denied by Canadian governments. The mass targeting of worship events, despite Feucht peacefully performing at many of his events in Canada in public spaces before without a single blue-haired Karen ever being harmed, has caused Feucht and Christians who were looking forward to the event to be diverted from the public square into smaller, private venues. So how did this all happen? What made Feucht's 2025 tour different than the rest of them? Well, if the mainstream media could use anti-Trump rhetoric to help convince Canadians to vote for the Liberals for a fourth time to get change, then why wouldn't someone be able to use the same tactics to bring down public enemy number one, an outspoken, white, conservative Christian male who had the audacity to promote freedom through the gospel during lockdowns?
Yeah, it was actually kind of an accidental movement. It's funny. I really felt like being in California, we were the most locked down state. And we actually had a governor that told us, bars are open, strip clubs can be open, casinos can be open, marijuana dispensaries can be open, the church has to shut, and the church can't sing. So that was kind of the moment to me where I was like, hold on one sec. We're the church. We've been worshiping for 2,000 years. Like, this is what we do. And we do it through pandemics. We do it through plagues. We do it through political strife. We do it through wars. This is what we do. So, that was the moment for me where I just began to say, okay, we got to do something. We got to rise up. We got to remind people who they are.
That's how Let Us Worship was started, as worship protests in America. But now it's just peaceful worship concerts.
What they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist, and if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
Down with the patriarchy. Now, in case my theory on how this has all come to be is not having you convinced, take a look at this CBC state broadcast article that came out just ahead of the wave of worship cancellations that, in this case, zoned in on Feucht's scheduled performance in Halifax in a public statement that falls under the federal government's Parks Canada. Residents want mega musicians concert at Parks Canada historic site cancelled. Really? I'm pretty sure many of those residents didn't even know who he was, aside from those who were looking forward to attending the worship event. But of course, CBC didn't interview any of them. Instead, they interviewed this man who says he's concerned, probably because CBC told him something like this.
Sean Feucht, again, is a religious leader. He ran as a conservative Republican candidate back in 2020 in the state of California, was not elected. He, during the COVID-19 pandemic, he and his church spoke out against and went in violation of the mask regulations, the large group gathering regulations. He's spoken out in support of Donald Trump and against abortion, U.S. LGBTQ plus rights. And generally, folks here are not happy about the possibility of having this event scheduled here in Halifax.
Oh my gosh, an American Christian who's pro-life and whose political views align better with the Republicans than the Democrats? Like 77 million other Americans? You don't say. And speaking about not saying things, of course, the MSM articles smearing Foyt, adding fuel to the zealous cancel mob's excuses for attacking Christian worship events, doesn't actually explain what Foyt actually said or did to be labeled against the LGBTQ plus community, probably because if they did tell people that he simply criticized drag queen story time or gender theory for kids, too many people would be less inclined to believe that he should be canceled, including people in the LGBTQ community. MSN instead makes it look like everybody agrees that Foyt should be canceled, at least his event. And they try to act like it has nothing to do with Christianity, although it has everything to do with it. And poof, Parks Canada cancels. And then repeat. The witch hunt triggered a domino effect, one city after another canceling permits, churches scrambled to find hidden private events, and the crew was harassed on highways. Foyt said his addresses were doxed and that he received death threats.
Hey guys, I'm here outside of Montreal, and we were just hit by a crazy car. It was out of control, it was swerving everywhere. I don't know if it was intentional, I don't know what, but it rammed into our bus. And we were all sleeping and felt it just bam our bus. And so we pulled over, we got police coming, the car, I think everyone's safe, everyone's okay. But man, this is wild. I don't remember the last time I've experienced warfare like this, and I would just ask for you guys to please pray. Can you pray for us? Can you pray for our team?
And in Montreal, the Christophobia dialed up further. A Spanish church that took in the worship event had anti-Israel protesters and Antifa outside, and one of them actually marched into the church, lit not one, but 2 smoke bombs, and threw them at Foyt and the other worship leaders in mid-worship. That is hate. That should not be happening anywhere, let alone in Canada. And that should have been the moment that the media and the elected officials who were jumping on the anti-Christian worship bandwagon said, hey, enough, we better stop this. I think we've gone too far. But instead, Montreal, well, they fined that church $2,500 when the worshipers were the ones under attack.
Let his enemies be scattered. As smoke is blown away.
Right as I start singing, as smoke is blown away. Smoke bombs thrown on the stage. And you know what the greatest miracle was? The greatest miracle of that moment is that the fire alarms didn't go off. Because that was the plan, right? If we can just get them outside of the church, we're gonna ambush. There's a whole group of really nasty people waiting outside of the church. And the goal was, well, I think the goal was to hit me in the head with one of them, but we dodged them. And, you know, I've been worshiping on the mission field too much. I've been, you know, on the front lines against ISIS in Afghanistan and North Korea. Like, I know the places where you lead worship with your eyes open. Now I know Montreal's one of them, okay? Anyway, but the greatest miracle is that the pastor, he's this Hispanic man, he's just such a, oh man, he's so strong for the Lord. And he said, it's a miracle, Sean. He's like, so much smoke filled the church, but he's like, our smoke alarms didn't go off. He's like, if we light a birthday candle in this cathedral, smoke alarms go off. And listen, I just want to say this. There's something about these atmospheres that create in us resilience.
Thankfully, the Democracy Fund of Canada is helping that church fight that fine. So if you want to help them cover the legal expenses to do so, you can do that at letusworship.ca. But a total of 6 eastern cities canceled Foyt and the worship concerts. They canceled Christians too. But we thought it would be different, at least in some places out west. And of course, it looks like it is in Alberta and Saskatoon. But would you believe that Abbotsford City Council, the municipal government for the so-called Bible Belt, denied Foyt's worship concert too? Abbotsford's Christian population and the amount of churches was quite a bit more. And in recent years, it has shifted over time as immigration has gone up in the area and people who sold their homes in places like Vancouver have made their way out there as well. But nevertheless, the prominent religion there is still Christianity. And it's a very conservative place overall as well. And their excuse? Community safety considerations. Given the recent publicity surrounding the proposed event, the city believes that the event could potentially attract significant numbers of protesters and counter-protesters in addition to attendees. Blah, blah, blah. Abbotsford, the truth is, just like the other censorious religious oppressors back east and in Manitoba, you caved after the radical, intolerant left demanded you to do so. Look at this call to action here, which at the time when I saw it had hundreds of engagement and was calling for them to come together and cancel the worship event. All right, BC, we have an uphill battle trying to stop Sean Foyt from performing here. Abbotsford, it's being held at Mill Lake Park on August 24. Organize! And despite Abbotsford's long history of giving permits to Christian groups at that same location, suddenly it's community considerations, and Christians are no longer being considered. Public safety has become COVID-19's public health, and the same religion is being under attack. Shame. You know, even our socialist premier, David Eby, didn't go as far as to say that Foyt's event should be canceled like Abbotsford chose to do. When asked his decision or his thoughts about him coming to perform here, he seemed to be carefully thinking about what he was saying, but of course couldn't resist continuing with the same baseless rhetoric that Foyt is anti-LGBTQ.
Premier, I just wanted to ask your reaction to an American singer, Sean Foyt, who is affiliated with the MAGA movement in the U.S. He's performing in Kelowna and Abbotsford next month. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't share this man's politics. I disagree with him using music to go after people who are gay. I think it is. I think it's pretty reprehensible, and I don't agree with the message that he's promoting.
So now we're supposed to be fearful that worship music is being used to go against gays? One BC party leader, Dallas Brody, was one of the first to speak out about Abbotsford's decision and its attack on Christian worship. In a video where she expresses her shock it's even taking place and ends with calling on people to reach out to their MLAs for action against it.
This is absolutely insane. I actually can't believe this is happening. And I'd like to know what the new rules are now. So if you're a singer and you hold conservative political beliefs, does that mean you're not allowed to sing anymore in public? Is that the new rule we're going ahead on in British Columbia? And it seems across the country?
Good question, though. After all, Lil Wayne, a Trump endorser and convicted criminal, is performing in Canada as well. In September, no cancellation mobs over his mega affiliations and offensive lyrics about drugs and violence and women tajas are probably going to be heard. In fact, if I was a betting woman, I'm sure I'd be rich. More of Abbotsford and Fraser Valley leaders are also finding hypocrisy in the worship ban. Chilliwack North MLA Heather Maas, who publicly opposed Eastern Canada's cancellations of the worship concert, told the public that she was looking forward to attending Foyt's concert in Abbotsford when it arrived. And when she found out that Abbotsford canceled that worship event too, she said that the decision undermines the principles of an open democratic society and raises serious concerns about freedom of expression, religion, and peaceful assembly. Langley Abbotsford MLA Harman Bangu issued a formal letter to City Council urging them to reverse their decision, stating that the decision appears to be less about actual risk and more about silencing views some may find controversial. Public worship is a constitutionally protected expression of faith, not a threat, and included that their action sends a chilling message to the Christian faith that they don't belong in public spaces. Bruce Banman, a former mayor in Abbotsford, did a video starting with a bunch of disclaimers about where he was going, but eventually said freedom of expression should be respected.
This is the way we're going to go, is we're just going to shut people down because we disagree with them. They're going to come after what you have to say and what you think is important. And that's not the Canada I know.
And on the federal level, Abbotsford South Langley MP Sukhman Gill called it a disappointing day for both our country and community, adding that he'd be deeply troubled as a Sikh to see his worship being targeted like this. And while we're at it, what about the Muslims? I don't hear a peep from the CBC or the censorious religious oppressors about this imam who is currently touring around Canada and preaches Sharia law and promotes anti-Western views. Crickets. And something tells me that that imam also doesn't support radical gender ideology or drag story time for kids. The truth is that the anti-Christian agenda is alive and well in Canada. Churches have been burned, pastors have been jailed, churches have been fined, and now an American Christian singer who holds Christian beliefs is blocked and deemed a threat to the community. But there's more good news. The show must go on. The worshipers will find a way to worship. And just like in the other places he was canceled, Foyt's team is looking for an alternative for Abbotsford on the 24th. I might be handicapped in size because it will be private, but it will go on. And I'll leave you with this. At a worship concert in Coquitlam in 2023, 4,000, Sean Foyt addressed the crowd about how brutal our government was against the church during COVID-19. And he said this.
And here's the good news, by the way. If you don't like how you responded to the test of 2020, there's another test coming.
Perhaps this is that test. This is the time to take a stand for religious freedom, regardless of your beliefs. And you can start by doing so by going to our special website called letusworship.ca and signing and sharing our petition.